everyone, happy Training Tip Tuesday. I'm Laura King and I'm here to help you train your dogs and cats to be therapy animals and adventure pets. Today I'm going to be answering a question that was submitted by one of you. If you ever have any training questions, you can always feel free to stop by in the comments on a Training Tip Tuesday video and ask away. I'll do my best to get around to answering it in an upcoming Training Tip Tuesday. Today's question is from Tiffany S. She said, "What are your rules with loose leash walking and sniffing? Should neighborhood walks be primarily a heel and then sniff walks or somewhere else like a grassy field?" This, my friends, is a great question. It's something that I think we should all take a little time to think about when we're out and about with our pets. I feel very strongly that we don't want to just think about what's best for us and our pet, but also for our community, the people and animals around us. And those can be two very different things. While I may know that I have an incredibly well-trained pet, or like Cora, our therapy dog, she is super duper friendly, and I have no doubt in my mind that she could walk up to any person we see on a walk and not bite them. But that person doesn't know that, right? So when I'm walking in a city, in a suburb, in a town, any place where I'm likely to see other people, I want to be aware of the other people and animals around me and be respectful of the other people and animals around me. That means that in general, when I'm leash walking my dogs in our own neighborhood, we use our let's go command, and let's go means that you have to be in the let's go zone, which is at my side or behind me, never in front of me. In our city, there's a 6-foot leash law, so they're on a 6-foot leash, so they can only go 6 feet behind me. And that's generally sufficient for keeping them from being a nuisance to other people and animals, especially if those people and animals are in their own yards, right? If we're walking by and my dogs are in our let's go zone, they're hanging out just a little bit behind me, they're not going to be bothering anyone that's in their own yard. But if we're passing on a very small city sidewalk, that might not even be enough, right? Let's go is a pretty loose command. They can kind of hang out wherever they want to behind me. And if I'm passing right by another person or animal, they may be invading their comfort zone, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they're invading their personal space, but we might be getting a little bit too close for comfort. So anytime I see that we're going to be walking right past another person or pet, I'm always going to do my best to increase space. Sometimes that means like crossing the street if it's safe to do so. Sometimes it's not safe to do so. We live on a very busy street. I just learned a fun fact yesterday that over 9,000 people drive by our house every single day. So it's a busy street. It's not generally going to be safe for me to just hop in the road and walk across it. But I can look for ways to increase space between me and that oncoming person or pet. Maybe I'm approaching a driveway and I can step into the end of the driveway to just give us a little more width between us. Again, this is being kind to those people because I don't know their comfort level with dogs. Maybe they're afraid of dogs. Maybe they've been attacked by dogs before. So seeing a dog at all makes them a little nervous, and I want to make sure I give them as much space as possible. Maybe they have a dog with them and that dog is struggling on leash. They're barking, they're reactive. I don't want to make it harder for them or their dog by getting super duper close because my dogs are super well trained. We can walk past. Well, that's just not being very kind to them, right? So I want to make sure that I give them as much space as possible to help set their pet up for success. But it's also setting my pets up for success too. If there is an out of control dog on leash, what happens if that leash breaks or their collar comes undone? I want to give my dogs space between them and that reactive dog so that it's easier for my dogs to be well behaved, and they're also safer if something is to fail in that situation and the other dog winds up off leash. So I want to increase space, first of all. I want to be considerate of everyone around us. And that's why we, again, are at bare minimum in that kind of let's go zone while we're walking. Now, they're welcome to sniff as long as they're moving with me, right? Maybe they're at my side and they sniff for a little bit until they get kind of close to the end of the leash and then they catch up again. So they are having a little more opportunity to sniff and enjoy. But if I'm walking right past someone, I don't really have an easy way to increase space. Or even if I do have a way to increase some space, we're still pretty close, I'm going to get my pets right into a heel. So that's a tight heel at my side, not a tight leash, although I could hold the leash tightly if I don't trust my own pet not to pull towards them. But right at my side, their shoulder glued to my leg so that they're as close as possible and we're giving the other person and animal as much space as possible. That's just polite. If I'm letting my pets run ahead of me on a 20-foot long line or a retractable leash when I'm walking in the city, I'm really setting them up to fail because they may run into a person or a dog before I even see it happening. There are often off-leash dogs in our neighborhood. That's probably true in most neighborhoods these days, unfortunately. So if they're way far ahead of me, it's really hard for me to advocate for my pet, but it's also just being inconsiderate to other people and animals that may be uncomfortable with a dog in their space. I may know that my dogs are friendly, but they don't. Also, legally, it may not be allowed. Most municipalities have some sort of leash laws, and a lot of them specify a leash length, generally 6 feet. So if your pet's on a 20-foot leash out in front of you and something happens, you're responsible for any damage caused by your pet. But now you've also got a leash law violation because they were on a leash that's longer than the law recommends. So it's just not a good life choice to do our city walks around a block in like the downtown area on a tight city sidewalk. With our pets in front of us, giving them that free range to sniff. I like to call it a sniff-vari. When we go on those walks, we're not working on loose leash walking, we're on a long line or something like that. That's not something I'm going to necessarily do in the city, around a city block, or even in a city park, like if I'm walking on the walking loop where I'm likely to run into other people and animals. When I do let my pets sniff around and roam and have fun is going to be in areas where we're allowed to be off leash or where they can be on that long line or retractable leash without interfering with other people and animals. And sometimes that means that we still have to be situation aware all the time, right? If we're out with our pets, we should be aware of what's going on around us. Maybe I'm exploring one of our bigger city parks with my pet, and allowing them to kind of lead the way, let them sniff or whatever. We're not working on loose leash walking. If I encounter another person or animal, I still want to make sure I get my pets back into at least into that let's go zone, or possibly even into a tight heel at my side. Again, out of respect for that other person or animal. Think of an animal that you're terrified of. It's probably not dogs if you're following me here on King's Creatures, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a bear. Maybe it's a snake. Maybe it's a tarantula, whatever it is. If you run into someone walking their pet bear or their pet snake or their pet tarantula off leash and they say, it's okay, he's friendly, how's that going to make you feel if you're absolutely terrified of them? Probably not great, right? You're like, I know he's friendly, but I'm afraid. So we want to make sure that we're leashing up and keeping our pets not just on leash, but at our side or a little bit behind us when we're passing other people. If I am in an off-leash area, I'm going to make sure that I do the same thing. We are very lucky here in the Cedar Rapids area. We have some county parks that have large unfenced dog exercise areas. I'm not a fan of dog parks for reasons that I could make a whole series of videos on, and maybe I will. But these off-leash exercise areas are often a decently safe place to be with your pet, because if someone's there, their pet at least has some training or would just straight up run away, right? Because there's no fences. But even though it's an off-leash exercise area, if I am approaching another person and their dog, I'm still going to leash my dog up and get them into that let's go or heel position at my side or behind me so that I can set them and their dog up for success. I'm also going to ask them to call their dogs most of the time. If I don't know your dog and I haven't trained with your dog, I don't know your dog's level of training, I'm probably not going to let my dogs interact and play with them, right? Because I want to make sure I'm setting my dogs up for success. So I'll ask them, hey, we're working on training. Can you please call your dog? Keep them a nice safe distance apart. We get past, and then I'll take my dogs off leash again. This, again, is just kind of some of that common courtesy stuff. In that situation, for most of our walk in those off-leash areas, my dogs are not in a heel or in a let's go. They're free to sniff and run and roam, and explore and have fun. Sometimes we get to do that on hiking trails too, but I still want to make sure that I have control over them as we're approaching other people and animals. Usually I aim for like about a football field away, right? A couple 100 yards. I want to make sure that I'm aware of them. And if I see that, I'm going to call my dog back to me when we're within that football field length. As they get closer, I'm going to make sure my dog's leashed up and at my side so I can advocate for my dog by body blocking their dog, and ask them to call their dog if it's just charging up at us, because I want to make sure that I have my pet in a situation where they're behind me. I can defend them a lot easier, but also that we're just not setting their dog up to get into trouble because it's out of control or charging at us or whatever it is. So that's my very long-winded way of saying, Tiffany, that there are different rules that I have in different situations, but really it's just about common courtesy. And that means that if we're in an area where we're likely to see other people and animals, having your pet in a heel or a let's go on like a 6-foot leash or so is probably going to be most ideal. If we're in an open area and enjoying off-leash time with our pets, we still want to get our pet into a heel or let's go when we're passing other people and animals, because it's just fair to them. It's kind to them. I'm all about being kind and compassionate to other people and animals in our community. That's why I love therapy animal work so much. And I think that should translate no matter what, whether we have an adventure pet or a therapy animal. If we're out in the community and we're demonstrating responsible pet ownership, that's going to help other people to see how good that makes them feel, how confident it makes them feel, and maybe they'll start doing it as well. Leading by example is a great opportunity for that. So I want you to think about when you're walking with your pet, what you would feel like if your dog was a dog that you didn't know at all, that maybe looked aggressive to you because maybe you're not good at reading body language or whatever it is, and it was charging up at you. Would you be comfortable with that, or would you be a little bit nervous or on edge? Even though we have crazy well-trained pets that we know very well, we want to think like other people around us and think what would make them the most comfortable. And pretty much 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 really, it's going to make them comfortable if your pet's on leash at your side, showing off their very well-behaved heel or loose leash walk. There's nothing to be worried about there. So that's what I try to do, to be kind to others around us, but also to set my pet up for success. The biggest reason for having your pet in a loose leash walk at your side when we're in a busier area, when we're in a community, a subdivision, a place where we're likely to see other people and animals, is that gives me a chance to advocate for my pet if a person or an animal starts to approach us. If I'm in a big grassy field and I can see all around, there's no one there, I don't have to worry about that as much. Now, that being said, if we're relying on loose leash walks in our own neighborhood as our only exercise outlet for our pets, first of all, don't forget there's lots of other ways to exercise your pet. You don't have to walk. You can do fetch or tug or whatever you want to do. But we can also make sure that we give them time to sniff and use that wonderfully powerful nose of theirs. So like I said, when my pets are in the let's go command, I'm okay with their head being down on the ground as long as they're moving with me. They get opportunities to sniff. If they're in heel, I want that nose up off the ground. But when I'm walking through our neighborhood, when we come to a spot where I think they may need to go to the bathroom, or there just might be some good sniffs like fire hydrants, there's always all the P-mail there that they can read. I'm going to stop, plant my feet, make sure my pet stops with me, right? And then say, okay. So I'm holding the end of the leash and they're free to sniff around and have some fun. I try to do that multiple times throughout the walk, again, just to make sure that my pet has a chance to go to the bathroom if they need to go to the bathroom. Sometimes that's why we're going on a walk, right, is to make sure that they actually go. So giving them the opportunity to stop and go to the bathroom, but also the opportunity to stop and use their nose to have some fun, to explore and investigate. That's a nice controlled way to do it. If we stand still, we keep our feet planted, we say, okay, they're free. They've got like that 6-foot radius around us to sniff and whatever. And then also, if I see another person or pet coming, I can recall my pet to my side, get them in a sit or down, or just start walking again. But it gave them that chance to explore, have a little tiny mini sniffari in the middle of our walk without just pulling ahead of me the whole time, undoing our leash training, setting them up to fail, and making other people and animals in our neighborhood uncomfortable. So that is how I handle loose leash walking in a neighborhood or in areas where they're able to be off leash. I still think we have a responsibility to demonstrate that. And again, think about if there's an untrained pet coming your way. What would you like that owner to do? Would you like them to let their dog run up to you from 20 feet away at the end of a long line? Or would you rather that they hold their pet at their side, give you space, and get past so there isn't a confrontation between you and their dog? We want to demonstrate how it can look for us to peacefully coexist around other people and animals. If we just ignore other people and animals and we get past them, giving them plenty of space, keeping our pets politely at our side, it's going to make everybody more comfortable and show them that dogs don't have to be a nuisance. It can be nice to have dogs around, or you might not even notice that there's dogs around because they're so well trained. They're not really affecting you in any negative way if you don't like dogs. And if you do like dogs, you're having a good time. You're smiling, you're appreciating them from a distance and seeing what a fun, engaged team that is, that dog and that handler. Wow, they look great. They look like they're having fun. And that makes me happy when I see stuff like that. So if we like dogs, it makes us happy. If we don't like dogs, it keeps us comfortable. So great question. Definitely something to think about when you're out on a walk in your neighborhood versus on a walk in the woods or in a field. There are different things you want to keep in mind, but the number one rule of thumb is if I'm passing someone else, I want to have my pet on leash at my side under control so that they're set up for success and the person we're passing is as comfortable as possible. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget that I will have a Training Tip Tuesday every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Central. You can check back here, and we'll have another one next week for you. Don't forget that you can also submit questions like Tiffany did for today just by commenting in the comment section of this video. And I'll do my very best to get to each question and answer it with a quick answer in the comments, or maybe even make a video like this one for an upcoming Training Tip Tuesday. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I'll see you next week.